This video is about the ethics of eating plants. Many people consider the ethics of what they eat and whether or not what they eat is ethical and why. In this video, we ask, is it ethical to eat plants? I offer the first premise that humans need to eat to live. Some argue that humans can survive on sunlight or air. These claims are yet unsubstantiated scientifically. As far as we know, humans do need to eat in order to survive. If we do not eat, we will starve. The second premise is that humans rely on the consumption of plants, whether directly or indirectly, in order to live. Plants are the producers of all food chains. They are autotrophs, meaning they have the ability to make their own food via photosynthesis. They harvest energy from the sunlight and store it in the form of consumable carbon. Consumers, on the other hand, are heterotrophs. The majority of animals, including humans, fall into the category of consumers. We cannot harvest energy from the sunlight, so we depend on this ability of producers. Consumers must eat other organisms for energy, whether plant organisms or animal organisms. Primary consumers eat plants, and secondary consumers eat other animals. We call these levels of the food web trophic levels. Primary producers comprise the bottom trophic level, followed by primary consumers, or herbivores, and then secondary consumers, or carnivores feeding on herbivores, and so on. We are, for simplicity, not factoring in decomposers or detritivores. So whether a consumer eats plants directly or merely eats other animals who eat plants, plant material is required at each trophic level. Furthermore, the further up the food chain we move in trophic level away from the level of producers, the more plant material has been required for the survival of that organism. This is because of inherent biological inefficiency of food webs. Only a fraction of the energy available at one trophic level is transferred to the next trophic level. As a general rule, it's only about 10% efficient. This inefficiency limits food webs. The numbers and biomass of organisms decreases as one ascends in trophic level. In other words, it requires significantly more plant material per unit volume of food to sustain a human who eats other animals than it would have required for that same human to have just eaten plants. We cannot remove ourselves from the consumption of plants, therefore. If we decide to eat animals instead, we are actually supporting the consumption of more plant material than if we had just eaten plants. This is an unavoidable fact of nature and well understood by science. These first few premises are all that are necessary in order for one to understand that it cannot be unethical to eat plants unless we decide that it is inherently unethical for us to even exist. The existence of humans requires the consumption of plants, and eating plants directly requires less plant consumption than it does to eat animals that eat plants. Therefore, assuming it is not unethical to exist or to continue to meet my needs for existence in the future, I reason that it is ethical to consume plants. I'd like to make an additional argument in support of plant consumption because I find that a good deal of people fail to understand the following biological phenomenon, which is problematic in understanding how and why life can thrive on Earth, and understanding any responsibility we may have in taking care of it. The biological phenomenon I hope that we can all understand someday is that eating fruits and vegetables doesn't kill a plant. In fact, harvesting fruit correctly often helps the plant grow taller, stronger, and more resilient. Plants regularly shed and or lose limbs, such as leaves, stems, or roots, and they have mechanisms of repair and regrowth to mitigate these losses. When it comes to fruiting plants, or angiosperms, these plants, for all intents and purposes, want their fruit to be eaten. Angiosperms, which are the flowering and fruiting plants, appeared during the late Cretaceous period, about 125 to 100 million years ago. The distinguishing feature of angiosperms is that they produce flowers for fertilization, and then they produce fruit for further reproduction. These organisms exert a great deal of energy and time to the production of these features. They produce flowers that are intentionally sweet and attractive to pollinators, and they produce fruit that is equally desirable to consumers. The more desirable the flower, the more likely it will be pollinated. The more desirable the fruit, the more likely it is to get eaten, and the seeds will spread. This is how angiosperms reproduce, by the dispersal of their seeds via the digestive tracts of consumers. The entire function of the fruit in angiosperms is to protect the seed and then get eaten. Fruit that does not get eaten by animals serves no additional purpose to the plant. It eventually wilts, falls to the ground, and rots. It is essentially wasted, as it did not serve its function, which was to be eaten in order to disperse the seeds of the plant. For these reasons, it makes no sense to say that it is unethical to eat plants, or that plants do not want their produce to be eaten. If plants have any desire at all, they do want their produce eaten. All life on the planet depends on the consumption of plant material. If it is ethical to stay alive, it cannot be unethical to consume plants.